Russell Gaitonde, the partner at Deloitte India, because he's sharing his expectation as to what will happen in the union budget speech tomorrow. Listen in.
Some of the key expectations of the Finance Minister in Union Budget 2023 are simplification of the capital gains tax regime in India. Today we have a very complicated capital gains tax regime wherein we have different treatments for different financial securities as regards the period of holding and tax rates. We need to move towards a much simpler form wherein probably we have two tax rates and the period of holding is one. For example, maybe long-term capital gains treatment to be extended to any financial security held for more than 24 months. Probably a long-term capital gains tax rate stabilized at 10% and a short-term capital gains tax rate stabilized at 20%. The second point is the applicability of surcharge to foreign investors. That needs a relook because today we're working with some very high net effective tax rates. So simplification of the surcharge levies would also be helpful. All of these measures ought to give a boost to foreign investment in the Indian capital markets. The second area that we would like the Finance Minister to take a look at is extending the sunset clauses that are currently extended to foreign investors who grant loans to Indian corporates as well as to FPIs that invest in Indian corporate debt and government debt. There is a sunset clause that expires on 30th of June 2023. It will be good if that sunset clause is extended indefinitely, and if an indefinite extension is not possible, then probably an extension out to about 10 years from now would be good. It will help provide a predictable and stable tax regime. And lastly, for sovereign wealth funds and foreign pension funds that invest in qualifying Indian infrastructure projects, currently the government has given long-term capital gains tax exemption as well as exemption from tax on dividends and interests in qualifying infrastructure projects to notified foreign pension funds and sovereign wealth funds. There is a sunset clause that expires on 1st of April 2024. That needs to be extended indefinitely or at least extended out to another period of 15 years. That's been an ask by these investors that provide patient capital. And lastly, for investments by these type of foreign investors in platforms that hold investments in qualifying infrastructure projects, currently the tax exemptions are granted only to platforms that were created after April 1, 2021. Some of the changes that we would like to see the Honorable Finance Minister bring about in Union Budget 2023 is if she could look at a reform of the capital gains tax regime in India. Currently, we have a fairly complicated tax regime wherein we have different tax rates for different types of for investments in different types of financial securities, as well as the period of holding varies. So what we would like to see is if the capital gains tax regime could be simplified, wherein we have probably just two tax rates, and also a long treatment of long-term capital gains for investments in any type of financial securities that are beyond that are held for more than 24 months. Probably a long-term capital gains tax rate stabilized at 10%, and a short-term capital gains tax rate stabilized at 20% for investments in any kind of financial securities, whether it's equity shares, debentures, corporate debt, investments in units of REITs, InvITs, government securities, etc. This ought to help give a fillip to investments in the Indian capital markets. Secondly, for foreign investors that invest in Indian corporate debt, as well as those investors that give foreign exchange loans to Indian corporates, there is a sunset clause as regards the eligibility to qualify for the concessional 5% tax rate in India that expires on 30th of June 2023. We would like to see this sunset clause extended beyond 2023 to probably indefinitely, and if indefinitely is not possible, then at least an extension of 10 years. This should help provide a more predictable and stable tax regime and help foreign investors better plan their investments into India. Thirdly, as regards investments by sovereign wealth funds and foreign pension funds in qualifying Indian infrastructure projects, there is a sunset clause that expires on 31st of March 2024 for investments made in qualifying Indian infrastructure projects. We would like to see this sunset clause extended indefinitely.